Hey guys, Chris here, and I've got today an absolute stunner that I'm doing my full review of that I've been using for a while now, and this is the Mate X2. Now this is the next step up and the evolution of the foldables, and the foldable phone, the future of this format is looking very, very promising. The hardware on offer here is absolutely stunning, and it is superior in every single way, hardware-wise, to that of, say, the Z Fold 2, which I'm an owner, and I use this all the time, and I'm converted completely to foldables, absolutely love them. As a tablet user, this is like a dream device because it's a phone and a tablet in one. We've got a usable outer screen with this one, which is 6.45 inches, 90 Hz OLED. When you open it up, you're greeted with a stunning inner 8-inch, much larger OLED here, also, of course, 90. So we've got the same refresh rate throughout the screen, so there's no horrible change going from, say, 60 to 120. And then in the camera department with this foldable, it is not a slouch at all. We've got a huge variety of cameras, so 50 megapixel main camera, 16 megapixel ultra wide, a 3x optical, which is 12 megapixels, and then even an 8 megapixel, 10x optical zoom periscope camera. They somehow managed to fit that in this. The whole phone is powered by the Kirin 9000. It has 8 gigabytes of RAM, this particular model, and 256 gigabytes of storage. It has a 4,500 milliamp hour battery. So just to point out that this is a loan device from Huawei. I have to send it back shortly. I'm not being paid for this video. All the opinions expressed are 100% my own, and they are not approving this video before I publish it on YouTube. So the box is larger than I expected, and that is because the Mate X2 is shipping in its unfolded state. So this is just a little card here, all in Chinese, just warning us about keeping away sharp objects from the inner screen. Don't get it wet, keep it away from powerful magnets. And here we have the accessories. So we get some Type-C earbuds, a Type-C to Type-A USB cable for data and charging, and the charger. So this one is 66 watts, and I will give you the exact charge time. I have measured it later on in this review. And in this box compartment here, we have the SIM tray tool, and just inside there is a little bit of paperwork and whatnot, but that is all in Chinese, so no point showing that to you. However, we do have this, which is a case. So good to see that we have a rear case on this, and it uses a stick-on method for it, and it is a clear one, but it does have this little flip stand, which is quite handy to have on a phone such as this one. The Mate X2 is a heavy phone, and it's understandable because of the foldable design, and it's quite thick when folded, around about 16 millimeters, which is thinner than the Z Fold 2, which I also have. So throughout this review, I will be doing a lot of comparisons to this model here because I'm a Fold 2 user and it interests me. So you see the weight there, around 300 grams, and you'll see that it is noticeably heavier than the Z Fold 2. And looking at them side by side, you can see the difference that this one, of course, is wider, but I do prefer it. And you'll see later on, because the outer screen is usable on this one, where it's not as usable on the Fold 2 I do find. So the Fold 2 has the gap, and we're looking at approximately around 18, 19 millimeters versus about 16 in the thickness when folded, which is quite good. They've managed to slim it down, even though, yes, it is a little bit heavier, this model. And the IR transmitter is located here at the top. Loudspeaker. This is for our SIM tray, which takes 2 nano SIMs, and the mic right there too. And then at the bottom of them, you will see here the antenna lines, of course, loudspeaker, Type-C port that does support display out. So this is USB 3.1 spec, and both of these do support their own desktop modes, which is very handy to have. It does have a side fingerprint reader. Now this one is capacitive, always on, and works great. So I just simply tap it there and you see it unlocks. It's around about a second or so. Maybe not the fastest I have seen. There's also face unlocking. Okay, so we've got some sensors here in the front, then the front facing camera. And I find that is also very quick and accurate. And you can see the obvious difference here in the width. The narrow screen on my Fold I do find to be a little annoying for things like when I need to type. So if I'll be going up here, bring up the keyboard, it is so narrow for that. And that's one thing that does bug me and always has with this phone. But this is just like having a normal phone. We have pretty much like a 21:9 aspect ratio with this one. So I bring up that keyboard just to quickly show you, I'm using Gboard right here, and just see the width difference. That does make, it might not seem it, but it does make a big difference for me. I'm getting less typos with that one. So front-facing camera, this one is 16 megapixels, and it has a sensor next to that for the secure face unlocking. Onto the hinge mech here. So very nice, very good build to it. Extremely premium here. This is just a superior build to me over this. And of course, it is a newer phone here. So the Samsung, you can see side by side, it is a little thicker there. The hinge, it protrudes a little bit more there, and they have the branding on it. I do really like the feel of this hinge bit. When you open it up, it has a very satisfying spring-loaded last quarter of the opening to it. It just goes down by itself. It makes a little bit of a noise, and this feels super, super rigid there. No problems with it. Now, when you fold it up, because of this edge around the outside, that is raised by approximately 1 millimeter, the screen is never going to touch on itself when it is closed. That's not going to happen. Very strong magnet, almost too strong at times, because it's quite slippery the outside here to get it open. But no, I don't really have any problems with that. Now, the Samsung has here a bit of an advantage. The hinge doesn't feel quite as good, the mechanism when opening it, because there's no spring involved. But what I can do with the Samsung, of course, is I can lay it down like this, and I could then type on the screen here and use it like a keyboard, or I could have a YouTube video displayed here or a video on the second half of the screen. And I cannot do that, unfortunately, because of that spring-loaded mechanism at the last quarter when opening. If I was to place it now on a table and just leave it there, it will just end up dropping eventually. It's going to do it, okay? It's not going to work. It doesn't want to do that. It won't let me. So here is the top part of the screen, and that's going to eventually end up, okay, for there it's actually staying put, but trust me, it's after a little while going to open up. So you can see here with the screen that we do have a little bit of a crease. Now I'll get my light to reflect there. It looks worse here, but in person, when I run my finger over this, you can barely feel it. Now let's compare that crease now to the Fold, the Z Fold 2. More noticeable, definitely more noticeable. Look at the difference there on those creases. Get that on the light again. Sorry, I've got my camera gear reflecting everywhere. Very reflective screens, of course, with the black. And when you run your finger over this, it feels like it dips down quite a bit more there, at least about like, I don't know, 0.5 millimeter more there. So the crease to me, way less bothersome. I don't really notice it, especially when the screen is on and you're looking at it normally straight on. You can barely really see that crease there, and it is a brilliant OLED screen that's in this. Onto our screen now. So this one is 2200 by 2480, the resolution. It looks very sharp, 8 inches. Now this is where we have a big gain on real estate. Well, it may not seem that big when we're going from the Fold here, but look at the difference when you're looking at it side by side. This is in the landscape orientation that I do have right now. So you can see side by side. Now with this screen, this is 90 Hertz versus 120 Hertz on this one. And I am noticing that the flicker seems to be taking place that I sometimes see on the screens being OLEDs. They don't have DC dimming, but I'm not seeing as much flicker with this one right here. So this 90 Hertz, and going from the 90 to the 120 Hertz, I'm not noticing too much of a difference. I could quite easily swap over to this and be happy at 90 Hertz. Now the touch gestures, very, very good, and I'm really not having any problems with them with the Mate X, really quite good. So the bezels around the outside, this is matte. We have a screen protector on it. There is a pre-applied from the factory screen protector on this one too, on the Mate. And sorry, on the Fold 2. Now the Fold 2 one's quite a tacky, horrible one, but I keep it on there to protect the screen. And the anti-fingerprint coating that they've used, Huawei, with this, I do find to be better. So it's a very nice screen. It is bright, it is rich. I'll get onto a little bit now of what you can expect on the outer screen. The outer screen doesn't quite max out at the 720 that I'm getting, 20 plus nits out of the inner screen, but it's very, very close. It's about 704 nits. It is a very good screen. Touch response is good here again. Now we do have a little bit of a bezel around the outside, and of course the notch cutout there is a little bit distracting. Onto a little bit now about what you can expect out of this, the ROM performance, the style and the use, of course, of the screen. So whatever app you're in on the outer screen, that if you open it up into its tablet state, then with the 8-inch screen, it will then swap over to the same exact thing that you were doing And if it does support it, we'll go over then into the tablet mode of that particular application. So I do find ROM performance is excellent, 8 gigabytes of RAM. We have the Kirin 9000 on board of this, and the storage speeds, as I'll get onto, UFS 3.1, are the fastest that I have ever seen. Now, depending on the app support, you can multi-screens. You can have one screen on the other, and that is super productive. And one thing that I do a lot as I swap over, and I might have, say, a video at the top and be typing, or have WhatsApp open or something else open down the bottom, you're able to do that. So I'm not using the default keyboard. This is the Gboard right now that I'm using with this. So if you decided that, oh, okay, I want to use this in a floating window, you're able to do that. And the multitasking and everything like that, this experience has been flawless for me, very smooth and fluid. So swapping over now, okay, I can have this up here, decide that, all right, I'm going to go in and do something else, or check out my photos or whatever, be watching something here, and that will work there. Now, I know that this, of course, comes with HMS, a big topic there, a lot of debate about that. Now, I've been getting along just fine. I could myself personally be absolutely fine. There are alternatives for everything out there. Now, App Gallery is slowly getting better, but I will give them a little bit of criticism here. They still are quite slow to get a lot of other developers on board, especially mostly when it comes to gaming. So a lot of the games and titles out there that maybe you would like to play on this aren't yet supported, but there are workarounds. There are some apps that you can just download the APK files with for those, so you can run them. I've got YouTube. I can run Gmail through their email application, so I can get all my Gmails there. WhatsApp is working, and pretty much everything I need. Maps, okay, so Maps, there is an alternative, which is the Here We Go Maps, and that seems to be, so far, working fine for me. So I think a lot of people, you can get around those shortcomings there without, of course, having that Google support, and I'm finding it just fine for myself, me personally. So all up, speed, very, very good, and overall, it's fluid. The 90 hertz, I'm not finding that too much of an issue there. But you will run into some problems that some apps demand to have, unfortunately, G-apps. For example, this one here, Display Tester, that I love to use in my reviews, you get an error message like this with a couple of apps that it wants Google Play services, which are not supported by the device. So that's one thing to bear in mind, that you will run into with some of your favorite apps, those problems. So you need to find then and look for a solution. I just wanted to point out too, I'm on the latest firmware with this device, of course. So they're only running Android version 10. Now, to me, it should be Android 11. Come on. I mean, we're in April now. So I do think that they need to get onto this Huawei, get some updates out for it. This is EMUI version 11. And free available storage will be approximately 235 gigabytes or so on first boot, with the 256 gigabyte model. And of course, it does have a Widevine Level 1 cert. So this jargon means that Amazon Prime Video in Full HD, Netflix, and I will demonstrate a little bit of the media content on this phone, what it is like. These are blazing fast internal storage speeds. UFS 3.1, I have never seen perform this good. Those random reads and writes, and even the sequential reads and writes, are phenomenal. And I'm noticing this in just day-to-day tasks with this particular phone. It does feel, to me, faster, even though the 90 hertz isn't as fast as 120. Just operating and swapping over and doing different things, it does feel very, very quick. And I would say at times faster than the faster than the Fold 2 that I have. The Antutu score here, this is good, very, very good. So definitely a flagship in terms of performance that you're getting out of this device. So GPS works well. You can get an accuracy of down to about 2 meters. It does see a lot of satellites. And if you're using this for navigation, I don't think you're going to be disappointed at all with its performance. Battery life, so far, I think this is the best in terms of battery life for a foldable. Of course, there's not many out there. There's just a newcomer now from Xiaomi. So this really, you could say, is the third, the fourth or so foldable phone that's out there. And that surpasses what I'm getting on my Z Fold 2. So my Z Fold 2, that one is only about 7 hours, you can see. So both of the displays were calibrated to 200 nits of brightness. Right here, they don't look like 200 nits. That's because I've already adjusted this. I'm using it. It's my own phone. And real world use, I get 5 hours out of the Z Fold 2. Real world use, I'm looking at about 6.5 maybe now out of the Mate X2. So that's excellent. Just like this. Charging time is far superior to the Z Fold 2. 48 minutes to go from 12% to 100. That is very quick. Now, what is the screen like for media content? So Amazon Prime Video, as mentioned, it's going to be full HD and it runs just fine. So a very quick demonstration just to show you what 16:9 content is going to look like on this screen. That you will have the borders top and bottom as expected. But the aspect ratio is slightly better than that, again, of the Fold, but it's still a large border. In fact, I don't think this is 16:9. This one I think is 21:9, isn't it? It's a different ratio, very stretched out. So you're going to get that with all of your media content out there. You're going to have these large borders. And it's the same with YouTube content, which is 16:9 here, my own channel. So anything that I was to bring up, any of these videos, that you will see that we are going to have those borders. Now, this is with YouTube Advanced. Okay, YouTube Advanced is YouTube, basically. So no problems running it on this phone. And you can see, again, those huge borders top and bottom that we are going to have. And like I said before, that when you're on the go, you just fold it up, okay? And the content is available then on the front screen. Over now to our audio. So the audio on both of them does sound very good, and they both have the same setup with the loudspeakers, and that is the outer, well, the front screen has the speakers either side of them. And what I'm going to do now is play one after the other so we can hear which one of them has the best sounding loudspeakers. Okay, so clearly there, the Z Fold 2 has the louder speakers, and I think just overall they sounded a little bit better to me. And a very quick look at gaming performance. So this is Genshin Impact that does support this screen here. You can see it's fully scaled out to it, and it looks great. It's super immersive with the loudspeakers, and just of course having that huge nice screen to play with. Great for a console level game like this one here, Genshin Impact, and it does run really smooth. Now, occasionally when you look around, you may notice a little bit of stutter as it's caching things into the RAM, and that's normal, and I get that with other foldables as well on phones. Moving over to our cameras now on the Mate X2. So this is the outer front-facing camera, 1080p maximum with electronic image stabilization. Now, if you want to improve upon the quality, then of course you can use the rear cameras. You need to flip it around and it uses the outer screen as our viewfinder, not the inner, which I am now doing. Now you see that with the main camera here, it is shaking about a bit, isn't it? And as I walk, it does not seem to have any electronic image stabilization applied here, which is not so good. Now, of course, using this mode, I can then zoom out and go over to the wide camera. But for some reason, using it in this portrait, well, selfie mode, there doesn't seem to be any electronic image stabilization, which is a bit of a bug. So what I will do now is close it, use it like a normal phone now, not like I'm holding up a tablet, and show you the quality of what we can expect from all of these rear cameras for video performance. And this now does have the electronic image stabilization. So as I pan around, there are a few judders coming through. That is some area of criticism from me for the video performance for such an expensive flagship foldable. I do believe they can improve upon this. So as I walk ahead, it is quite steady. Now the good thing about it is, sorry, that's the main camera right now, but now I'll go over now to the ultra wide, so we're fitting a little bit more into the shot. So on the go, I can swap the cameras. If I tap and hold, you get digital zoom here, or you can select different points. Now it's not so easy to do this. You do see the transition in the lens. So right now that's 1x. Okay, it goes up to digital, then 3. You can see it does like a bit of a pulse as it swaps over. And let's take a look at this house up here that is looking like it's going to fall off this cliff one day. Up to now 10x, so now it's gone over, or should have gone over now to the 10x optical. There we go, now it's gone over, and you can zoom in and get digital zoom, which starts to degrade the quality quite a bit. So all of these cameras do have optical image stabilization. I'll just pull back now and I'll zoom. So swapping back over those cameras. Now to the 1x, and again to the ultra wide. And just quickly run down these stairs here. Okay, so let me talk a little bit about those photo samples. The zoom quality I think is excellent. Now going to the 10 times and 3 times, it's very versatile to have such a huge array, and the ultra wide can fit a lot in there as well. What I have noticed is the color science and the white balance between the different cameras does vary, and I hope that Huawei's team can optimize that a little better, that they can be similar. I know we're dealing with different apertures and maybe it's a bit difficult, but you do notice that difference in the white balance especially. Now, as I pointed out, there seems to be a bit of a bug when using the cameras in video mode as, say, vlog footage. So that's when you've got the rear cameras pointing at yourself, so you open it up and you've got this as your viewfinder and the rear camera's facing you. There's no optical or electronic image stabilization for some reason, so to me that's definitely a bug. I mean, why could the phone not do that? So the hardware is absolutely superb on this, top notch. I mean, the hinge feels so good and you can barely see the crease. You do have to reflect it in light at certain angles to see that. Running my finger over it, you feel it, but it's nothing like what I have with my Z Fold 2. And when I go back to the Z Fold 2, it just feels inferior in every single way. With the Fold, the crease is much more noticeable. It doesn't bother me too much, I'm so used to it now. But now using this one, it's hard to go back to the Fold 2. It is such a great device. Now, one of the best things for me is the outer screen is usable, okay? It's a proper normal phone width here, and it's like a 21:9 aspect ratio, whereas I find the Fold, of course, as I pointed out, this one, it's just too skinny for me, and I do find it a little annoying. And I only really use it for, well, when I take photos with a camera or just looking at messages and quick things. I would never use it to type out, say, an email, even for Twitter or something like that. No, it's just not. But this one, usable there. Inner screen's great. Now, it's only 90 Hertz, but going from the 120 to the 90, I'm not having too much of an issue. The phone is super quick, and I'm seeing absolute best UFS 3.1 storage speeds that I've ever seen in the channel with all the different phones and devices I've tested. Really impressive there. Wi-Fi 6 is very quick as well. I'm getting some really great transfer speeds. Well over 1,000 megabits per second, and 5G is working excellent there too as well. So there's a lot on offer. Now the swap going from GMS to HMS, this for me hasn't actually been too much of a big deal because I've found alternatives to pretty much every single app that I use. So for Google Maps, I'm using Here Maps or whatever it's called now, and that seems to be fine so far. And I use Vanced for YouTube, Advanced YouTube. That's been all right. I can get my Gmails through the email app. Really everything that I need is there now. Now I do find that the app gallery is still in its, I feel in its infancy still, because a lot of applications that I searched for I couldn't find. Now it does bring up Petal Search and you can find APK files or alternatives that you can install, which is good. But if you're a gamer out there, a lot of the games is where it definitely falls short. So if you went in there and you're looking for, say, Call of Duty, it's not there. Or if you go to try and play the game, you'll come up with that message that it wants GMS. And that's really for the games that I found a bit of an issue there. So you need to bear that in mind, of course, if you're looking to get one of these. But fantastic hardware. It is a really, really good phone. Probably the best phone that I've reviewed so far this year. I really do love it. And it's a sad thing that I've got to give this up now in a few days. It needs to go back to Huawei, of course, to pass on to another reviewer. So I'll be continuing with this one, but I'm seriously considering getting myself one of these. It is, of course, yes, an expensive phone. So not for everyone out there, but it's great to see the evolution of this hardware, the foldables, and where they're heading. For me, this is definitely the future. Foldables, that's where I am at. I'm definitely sticking to foldables now. So thank you so much for watching this. Yes, very long, but hopefully I did answer all the questions you may have had as a potential buyer of this, the Mate X2. And do subscribe for more up and coming videos from me. Bye for now.